You know what? Well, hello. Oh, go ahead. Oh, what are you? Yay. Okay. Sunshine, sunshine and sun rays, all the beautiful things, beautiful people. Welcome to the Goddess-ity podcast, where we always want to challenge you to do what's most audacious and live like the goddess that you are. I
Sorry.
can hear myself. I can hear myself. All right. All right.
Sammy, little
That's all right.
feedback.
That's all good. That's all good. So, we got an interesting show for you this evening. I believe it's a little bittersweet for the goddesses, if I do say so myself. We are in a space where we've chosen to do some different things. But before I jump in fully and completely, let me make sure that I introduce the goddesses. Of course, you know, based on what you see right here in the corner, I'm Goddess Akili. We've got with us Goddess April. And yes, the incomparable Goddess Juanita, right?
Hello.
Goddess Linda, you know, is again living her best life in Costa Rica. So we might see that sister tonight. We might not. But if we don't, it's not because she did not want to be here with us. She definitely sends her love. But we know she's over there partaking in a number of activities, hanging out with family and doing some things that she's been wanting to do for a long time. So the space is definitely open for her to join, but do know that that's why you don't see her right at the moment. So, with that being said, goddesses, let's go ahead and jump in. So, we as a collective have decided that we are going to take a little bit of a break from the Goddess-ity podcast. Yes, woo, 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 woo. We are taking a little bit of a break from the Goddess-ity podcast until November. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we got to that decision. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we are going to be doing during this break time. And we'll also be sharing some of the things that are going on energetically as it comes to, you know, some of the things in the cosmos, what's going on in society right now, because they all play a part in the process. So, I'm going to go ahead and hand the baton over to Goddess April to talk about how in the world we came to this decision.
Oh man. Okay. Thank you, Goddess.
Yes.
So it's so interesting. I'm so sure that, and I'll say this, it's like bittersweet. It really is, right? Um, because I think we all came to an understanding, this feeling collectively that it was just necessary. Um, and I have been called to focus on myself and go within for a very long time now. I was telling the goddesses that probably sometime around last year, this time, I was hearing that I just kind of needed to kind of take like this, not vow of solitude necessarily, but to truly focus on my spiritual journey, right? And to focus on myself and connecting with myself. So connecting with myself, connecting with source. And we talk about that all the time on the podcast. And I just realized, like, with how things are and everything that's going on with me, I needed to minimize some of the things that I'm giving my time and energy to. And I'm like, and it was very hard for me to make this decision with the goddesses in particular because I love you guys so much and I value this space so much that it was just like I kept being like, well, not this space though. You know what I mean? But at some point, I realized that I'm like, everything was telling me. So mentally, emotionally, and when your physical gets involved as well, it makes you pay attention. And it's like it's okay for you to step back for a little bit and take care of yourself and to do what it is that you keep being called to do,
Mhm.
which is what I said, right? Taking that time and really focusing. Um, and I know that I've shared some of the things I've been navigating, some of the challenges, um, and with family, all kinds of things are going on. And at the same time, being on this podcast and has really, how do I want to say, it's really played a major part in my whatever's going on with me spiritually, like things truly just opening up for me. And I'm experiencing all kinds of things that I have to get around. Like, what is happening right now? But in a really good way. Um, I know that for me, I shut a lot of things down very early on in my life in terms of, for the lack of a better term, I'm going to say spiritual gifts and things like that. Um, but they are popping right now, right? I'm getting all kind of stuff is going on, and it takes some time to figure that stuff out, to figure out what's going on, and for you to come into a place of my aunt, right? Where there's some balance and you feel like you can manage it and navigate it in a way that's beneficial to you and potentially other people that you're feeling called to help, right?
Mhm.
So I'll just say, for me, that's what brought me to this place where I even brought this up to the goddesses. And then to find out that they were kind of in this place as well. Like what was going on with them, it wasn't a coincidence. Like we truly are in alignment in a lot of ways.
Mhm. Mhm. It's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It- It's right on point. It's right on point. See, you're taking us really, Goddess April, into a nice bridge in terms of like, what are we going to be up to since we are not in the space of doing the podcast for a few months? And what's the purpose of us even coming back in November? I think I'm going to give the baton over to, well, go ahead. Go. Oh, are you going to go?
No, no, no. We have Goddess Linda. I'm gonna add her
Oh,
to.
oh, oh.
I just
Goddess Linda is part. Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm here.
All right. All right.
Yes,
Look at
hello,
you.
goddesses.
So look
hello,
hello. We're so
good.
glad
Goddess.
that you're
Oh,
here.
I know.
Yes.
I love this. This is fantastic. You have come right in at the right time, Goddess Linda. Right?
Okay.
Like I said, I was going to pass the baton over to Goddess Juanita, and I'm still getting ready to. But we're just talking about, what it is that we are going to be doing for the next couple of months, since we will be on a quasi hiatus,
Yep.
and what the purpose is of us even having a conversation with everybody in November to give them an update of, what we've been up to.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, Goddess
Awesome.
Juanita. Yeah.
Well, I guess probably as we're going through this conversation and talking about what's leading us to this kind of break that we're having, there's some things that happened with me this week, this past week, that was a kind of like if you've ever had that feeling like you're in a place and all of a sudden like a switch flips and you're in another place. Or if you've ever had that kind of feeling like something just, you feel like energetically you just move to another place. And really for me, the experience that I had this week, and I'm not going to go into it because I'm trying to move myself away from that energetically. Uh, it was like that. It was almost like being in this place of, how you're moving and you feel like you're moving like this, and all of a sudden you're like, in slow motion almost, like
Mhm.
a reset kind of thing. And as we were talking about this, for me, I would start saying, okay, And then I felt like also that I was at a place that I was at maybe 6 months ago. And I'm like, okay, why I'm at the same place, right? And as I started thinking about it, I really started thinking about I'm only at this place because when the reset happened 6 months ago prior, I still did not get into alignment of where I needed to be.
Mm.
And as I started thinking about that, I was like, man, that is just so crazy. And then to see, as I was talking about, a little bit, I was thinking about today, and I talked to Goddess Linda about what's happening in the cosmos energetically, with Saturn kind of being, far out. That's kind of, and Saturn is kind of has this, I guess you could say, this energy of, it's kind of like time can slow down if you're doing things really that, or you're in a place that you really don't want to be, and it can really speed up if you're in a place that you really and you're passionate about, right? And then you kind of have this place where Saturn is kind of like a place of confinement, and you sometimes feel like you're trapped, and you feel like you ought to be going forward, but you feel like you're in this space of you want to move forward, but for somehow you look and you seem like you're not getting anywhere, right? And I felt all of those things. And I started thinking about what was going on. I was thinking, okay, this is why. And when I was approached with a situation this week, I found myself having to really be strong in my convictions. And I know Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, all kind of, and I said, okay, Mars, that's the Mars in me. Because I'm like, no matter what, not knowing what was going to happen, how it was going to play out, I just felt in my spirit that I had to stand in my conviction. You know what I mean? I had to stand there. It was just like one of those things. I don't know, when you had that moment that you just say, I really don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But at this point, I can't even think that far. I just got to do what I think is right in the moment. And I think for me, it made me go back as we started talking about this, the things happened, and reevaluate where I was, and probably thinking about where I really wasn't where I needed to be based on what spirit was telling me to do. But I keep getting in my own way with not believing that spirit, if spirit is telling me to do something, it's also going to supply the resources and the things that I need, right, to make that happen. And I think every time I get ready to make that step, I find myself worried about, well, I need to have a safety net, or I need to have something, right, to support me, because I'm not completely trusting that spirit really has me, if you know what I mean, right? So it's still that battle between wanting to live this audacious life that we talk about, but still being in my human confinement.
Yeah.
I can't fully just break free because I still have all of these human emotions and of not feeling like I'm worthy, not feeling like I'm good enough, not feeling all these things that keep, even though I want to, like, it's almost like I want to fly, but something keeps holding me. Those things that I'm trapped in, that continual cycle of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, this is all bad things can happen, all of that just keeps holding me down. So I think this is my opportunity. As we talk about the date we have to come back, I said, okay, that holds me accountable. My opportunity to just start doing something. And I said, tomorrow, have my date. I'm sitting down, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to put together a plan to start my accounting business. I'm just going to put down what are the services I'm going to offer, how much I'm going to do. Maybe I just try to offer 3 things. What are they going to be? What the price is going to be? How I'm going to manage it all, whatever. I said, but because if I believe if I put the plan in place, if I write it down, if I make it plain, then it's gotta come. It's gotta come to fruition. Because that's what we've been talking about, right? We're talking about you gotta visualize it, you gotta see it, you gotta meditate on it. So I think this is gonna give me the opportunity to really step into a place where I need to step into.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need that grace.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What about you, Goddess Linda?
Well, yeah, there's some things that have transpired. The first thing that I want to share is that so this space here that we created, the Goddess-ity podcast. Can you guys hear me okay?
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
very
You
well.
know, the space that we created, the Goddess-ity podcast, we are practicing what we preach. All the things that we have put together for our audience, these are things that we do and deal with on a daily basis. And a lot of times I'll just, share with you all that um, the talking points for some of our episodes develop out of the result of us talking amongst ourselves to each other about, what's going on in our lives. And so as I'm looking at this, and I'm not saddened by this hiatus that we're having to take. You notice that I am back in my original environment. I am back home. And as Goddess Juanita was saying, it's just like there's this switch that went flipped off and flipped on. I was in Costa Rica yesterday. Was supposed to be there for another few weeks. But due to a family emergency, I am now back in the US, back home. And what I had shared with you all on the last podcast of the period of time when I first got to Costa Rica. Well, before I got to Costa Rica, and what my inner guide was telling me is that you are healed. You're going to go to Costa Rica as a healed woman. You need to start living as a healed woman. I had no clue what that looked like, and it did scare me, a little bit. But I was like, no, this is what you have been putting in all the work for. And so now that I am back home dealing with this emergency, I'm dealing with it from a space of strength. And all that I have been through, I can bring that to the table to assist this family member. Um, and, I look at my early retirement. It's like all of this, life synchronizes. All of this has come into play to help me better position myself for this family member. And I am so grateful and thankful for that. It's like I don't like um, and wish this upon anyone of what this family member is going through. But who knows? Who knows what this is going to bring about that maybe it's an opportunity for further growth and development in the sense of helping someone else, whether it's from my perspective or from this other family member's perspective. And I had meant to talk to the family member and ask for permission, but since I didn't, I failed to do that, that's why I'm just kind of being, vague as to, who the person is and what the situation is. But it's, as I said, life synchronizes. And I have no idea where this is going to take us, but I do know that it is taking us up. Up. That's all I know. And I'm open to receive any and everything that is just going to continue to bring me more into alignment, more joy, more peace, more ease, more excitement. Not only in my life, but so that I can then share that with others.
Yes.
Which is awesome. Which is awesome. Like I said in the chat, I feel like that's what we are all here to do in some shape, form, or fashion.
Mhm.
Sorry, audience, you guys aren't aware of the chat that I speak of, but
Yeah.
we do.
But I do want to add this real quick before we go on. So
Yeah.
I'm going to present it first to my goddesses. I have it's already paid for. Anybody interested in going to Costa Rica, I will gift my Airbnb to you. So
Oh, wow.
y'all think it's September.
September.
Yeah, second week in September.
You got it. You
Oh, it's paid through then.
It's paid. No, it's paid for. I was going to be in this location. It's on the Caribbean side, so it's in Puerto Viejo.
Okay.
That's where and from September, I think 8th through October 7th. So
Wow.
you ain't got to go the whole time, or you can go the whole time.
And you already paid for it.
It's already paid for. So I will be gifting that to someone. So I'm giving you all the first right of refusal. So
Oh man,
Thank you. That's awesome.
yeah.
that is.
Awesome. Sure is.
No, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful gift. Okay.
Gotta think about that.
Things that just open up and fall in your lap.
Oh, just fall in your lap, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
So all you need is a ticket to get over there.
That's right. That's right. That's all you have to do. Okay. Well, Goddess April, I know you shared with us some of the reasons as to why we got here. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're going to be working on during this time period before we come back? Or how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely doing that internal work more than I have been. For me, um I've already also been putting some things together. I think it's been coming together as this has gone along. And I'm not even going to say what I'm being called to do. I guess what I'm being called to do at this moment, right? And or what, because and I think I don't know if we talked about this on this podcast or not. It may have been a private chat or a private session, but we were having the conversation about like, this idea. Yeah, I think it was a private conversation. This idea of like you have to wait until you you're prepared, right? Until you have all of the knowledge and all of the tools and all of the things to be able to do the work. Um, and what we came, what was coming out of that conversation was this idea that, you know, this work, especially when it's in the spiritual realm, when it's with working with other people, right? And you are the service, you are the thing. You know what I mean? You aren't making bow ties. You aren't selling a product, which you may wind up doing. But I mean, when what you do, who you are, what you provide is you showing up, right? And providing a part of you to someone. That's the main piece, right? Is that you, in only the way that you can, right? Doing that's the work. That's the majority of the work. And so all of us having been on this journey for such a long time, and I think the proof is in the pudding in a way. Like this podcast, I think is showing us that we do have a lot of knowledge, right? And that we are prepared to start. You know what I mean? To start doing whatever it is that we're being called to do. And so that's where I'm at right now, is actually, like Goddess Juanita said, actually starting and doing it. So I've been working on that, putting that together, and in the way that I want to package it so that I can provide that to other people. And also, like I said, part of that I know is, like I said, it's hard. I don't know why I hesitate to say spiritual gifts, because I'm under the, I feel like we all possess these things, but I do understand that there are folks who are much more attuned or much more aware of these abilities in terms of, the clairs that we talked about, clear cognizance, clear audience, what might be considered psychic abilities. So I'm someone who very early on started experiencing things even as a kid, but growing up, in a religious environment, I didn't have a lot of space, room, support, anything to help me understand what was happening. And, it became something scary. because if it's not Jesus, then it's the devil. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Right.
It's the rapist. It's not the rapist.
right. So I had this experience. This is actually when I had my birth chart reading done, where like the veil got blown open, back open,
Yeah.
because I was having this conversation with someone who was affirming these things and being like, no, this is just a natural part of you, and this is part of your makeup and part of what you bring to this world. And I felt safe. And like all of a sudden, like I said, the veil blew open, but it was so overwhelming that I shut it right back down again. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm now in this space where I'm so happy, but like taking this intentional spiritual journey and then also being amongst you goddesses, it's now happening in the way that is that feels good. It feels better. And
Mhm.
I'm
Awesome.
embracing it, and
Yes.
I'm excited to see where it goes, where it takes me.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, woo. I'm
I
excited
love,
for you too. Yes.
I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What
Well,
about you, goddess?
Yeah, you got
Atia?
it, Kenny.
I know, right? I guess I'll go ahead and jump on into the seat here. So, so for me, I just, I always preface things like I'm just going to keep it completely 100. I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm a professional run my mouther. Okay. Is what I'm supposed to be doing. And back in 2011, I went through the process of becoming a life purpose coach. But in going through that process, one of the things I had to do was get a life purpose coach and go through the process of understanding and learning about my purpose. In doing that, I heard from the creator, from the most high, that what my purpose was to teach people about their gifts and bring them closer to the most high. Because I was being taught under a very Christian lens at the time, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to teach people about their gifts and bring them to God. I don't know what that looks like. I don't understand what kind of job that is. I don't know what I'm going to do with that information. And I actually started connecting with churches and wanting to bring the message around the power of purpose and understanding one's life purpose to the church. Something still about that process was not seated with me properly. Like I'd be doing it and I'd be going there and then I'd pull back. And I'd be doing it and I'd be going there and I'd be talking to churches and then I'd pull back. And it was almost as if there were these things that were inside of me that were trying to come out, that I feel like there was some components of Christianity that were shutting that down.
Mhm.
Mainly my view that I feel very strongly about serving Black people. It doesn't mean that I don't want to serve anybody else, but I
Mhm.
feel very strongly about serving Black people. Christianity made me believe that that was a bad idea. I need
Mhm.
to serve all people. I need to be for all the people. And I battled with that for a long time. Like, well, why do I feel something different? Why is that stirring for me to do something a little bit different? So needless to say, it created a little paralysis. And I battled with myself for years, like, well, I'm supposed to do something with the church, but there's so many things that I have questions about that I don't understand in here. Something about this is not quite gelling, not quite making sense. So, in being on this podcast and continuing to study metaphysics and spirituality, the goddesses, one thing that they do, or one thing that we do for each other, is hold space to grow, hold space to ask questions and understand and be a sounding board. And it's a sounding board unlike what you might be used to, because we all have some very similar views of the world. So it's easy for us to kind of be like, okay, well, talk us through what you want to do, and let's see what we can do to help. So in being in this space, what I've learned is that, oh my gosh, number one, the introduction to the things that have gone on in my brain about Egypt for the past year or so. Like I said, that's a floodgate that has been opened, and we're all connected with that piece. Um, that has opened a doorway to me in understanding and connecting to my spirituality. And the Most High continues to say, I'm letting you go down this path and down these extensive rabbit holes for a very good reason. One of the things that you will do that I didn't give you the answer to the question about in 2011 is you're going to teach Black divinity. Okay.
Mm.
Period. End of sentence. That's exactly what I meant. Back then, I didn't know what Black divinity was. So crickets when I was continuing to ask questions like, what is that? Like, what am I going to be teaching? What am I going to be doing? But now that I'm in the space with these goddesses, it's like, okay, well, how do I want to teach it? What am I going to do? Am I quite ready to do this? And the goddesses will let me know. Akili,
Yep.
you kind of can do stuff.
That's her word. That's her word, kind of. We said you can do the damn thing.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what we said. You got it.
Yeah.
Look,
Exactly.
look how they treat me. Look at them.
You got it. Just do it. Just do
They
it.
like, listen,
Just do it.
you already have a lot of things going on. What I will do is, like Goddess April mentioned, I will stay in spaces where I feel like, I got to be the subject matter expert, because what if somebody hit me with some information that I don't know? I don't like to be in a space where I don't know things. But I had an experience just yesterday when I went to the dentist. I was talking to the dental hygienist about Egypt, of course, because where would I be if I wasn't able to do things like this? And so I was telling her that I'm going to Egypt next year to get to the Kwesi tour. And once we started talking, she asked me, and she is from a different persuasion, a different ethnicity. She basically said, like, I don't even understand what Egypt has to do with Black people. And I was like, well, that's
There
by
you go.
design.
Open
That's
the door.
Let me tell you why that is a thing. Okay, let me talk to you about this. And we spent time talking, and I blew every last bit of her mind, which was fantastic for me. She's like, I'm going to tell you right now. I have a lot of people that come in here and sit in this chair and tell me all kinds of things, all kinds of different viewpoints. She said, but very few people are educated about what's going on. She said, you're talking to me and you presenting this information in a way that is educational. She said, and I can't go and talk about it in this way because people are going to challenge me. She said, and even with the things that you're saying, she was like, people very well could challenge you. I said, I don't care what they challenge. The fact is on the wall is written in stone. I don't have time to worry about the challenge. That's it. What they want. Everything
history.
That's right. Everything that they're talking about, I don't see any record or account of. Okay.
Nope.
So I'm not worried about the challenge. So that I don't have to get up in arms with you about it.
Nope.
Because the truth is strong enough to stand on its own. I said, but the fact is, it's a beautiful thing that you're open to the information.
Yes, definitely.
Right. And so as I was having that conversation with her, I was like, okay, I bet I'm just going to continue to have instances of this to just
reaffirm that you are ready for the challenge.
All right. Okay. So
exactly.
So in this time frame, yes, beyond teaching about Black divinity, I also feel like there are some things that I want to be able to do in a space with people as they're walking through challenges and trying to get unstuck. While I think that for us, Black divinity is a big piece of healing for our community. I think understanding, obviously, the power of the mind is really key. And obviously, the ancient Cometians knew that really well. So I am in a leadership training program right now that is teaching me about different ways to structure questions to be able to break down some blocks that people have. I will be in that for the next 7 months, and I am ecstatic about going through that process because I want to have that framework. I just do. I do still love to learn things, but there's a method to my madness. So I will be doing that so I can create something pretty incredible for you guys.
Awesome. Yes, I look forward to that.
Wonderful.
And Goddess Akili, I will
Yeah.
have my sign, and I'm gonna say, "Remember me, remember me."
I know, right?
How could I ever forget?
I be like, when you up on that stage, I want to be like, "Girl, I want you to say yes. I know you." I be like,
Yeah.
"Yes, I told y'all I knew her."
Bringing Goddess Linda, bringing Goddess Linda right up on the stage with me, like, now let me tell you about Goddess Linda. Okay. That part. But no, I appreciate you guys, like I said, so much for being who you are. There's nothing more incredible. So
Yes.
it is again very bittersweet for all of us, but
Yeah,
you've been such a huge piece of the puzzle for me. So I honor that so
you
much.
are welcome. You are
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah. And thank you.
Very welcome.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
think we
Yeah.
all can say that we've grown on this journey
Yes.
of, because even though we started the podcast, maybe we had our first episode, maybe the end of February. We actually
mm-hmm,
had started this whole journey like around end of October, 1st of November kind of spot
Mm.
in there. So
mm-hmm,
we've almost made, I mean, when we meet again in November, we'll probably be almost at a whole year, right, of this whole
Yes.
process.
mm-hmm,
And what I can say about it from my experience, just with working with people is, I mean, the goddesses have been so easy to work with, so cooperative, so wanting to just, everybody just to bring their gifts to the table and everybody just to show up as the best that they can. And for us all to kind of learn from each other and for us to grow. It's like you're getting permission just to be who you are with
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
nothing. You don't have to come with. And I guess when I'm saying that I really believe these are the kind of spaces that we need to continue to create. I mean, we created this space for each other, and we're doing this podcast to kind of create a space for each other. But I think the more, I'm like in this space, I realize that this space is something that everybody needs. Everybody needs this space. And just to give a plug out to Kerry Washington and people, I don't know if you guys have a chance to see, I was talking to Goddess Linda, this series called this documentary that they did on Netflix called Daughters. It's
hmm,
about this lady who was working with young girls, African American girls, and she realized that a lot of them were struggling with the fact that their dads were incarcerated, right?
hmm,
So she had the girls to write letters, and they went and talked to, I'm thinking maybe like the police officer, the police department, somebody in that area that helped put them in touch with the prison system there. And they went and asked him about could they just do like a father-daughter dance with
hmm,
their fathers in jail, right? And but the whole thing is great because not only did they say yes to that and set that program in motion, but they also had this gentleman to come in and with these fathers that decided to participate, take them through like a 10 to 12 week program of preparing them how to be with their daughters in this space, right? But
hmm,
the whole thing about it, I want you guys to look at that. So I don't want to tell you anymore because when I tell you it's absolutely just fabulous to your core. I mean, it
Mm.
is.
hmm,
And when I say that, of course, it's heartbreaking. But when I say that, one or two of the young men that were participating in the program, they just said that they were so thankful for the space to be able to sit in a group with all these men and talk about the things that they were facing and how they got to this place because they said they had never had an opportunity to do that. And I
hmm,
thought, man, how important is space for people?
hmm.
God.
Mhm.
Because you're thinking about if these men before they actually got in this position had those spaces. That's why I say to
Mhm.
me, I don't know how I want to do it, but a rites of passage thing needs to happen for young
Oh
men
yeah.
and young women. Because if they
Mhm.
had those spaces when they were young because their fathers were absent or somebody was absent, I mean, would their lives have been totally different?
Mhm.
With some of those things that they were feeling, they were able to share it with someone versus going out and making a crazy decision. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Something that they were thinking about, some pressure that they had. Maybe they had to pay something. They're thinking, okay, I don't have a choice but to do this. But they could have been in a circle with somebody. They could have said, hey, I understand you think you don't have a choice, but listen, this is other things you could do. You know what I mean? What a
Mhm.
difference they could have made. But just seeing how they were talking about overall, they've done these programs in multiple prison systems. This lady started. But the
Mhm.
thing that they said that really just got me was they saying they have to make a commitment at this dance to their daughters that they will not come back here again, right? And they were talking
Mhm.
about that everyone had done this program. Out of all the people that had done that program, they had a 95% success rate that the people that participated in that program did not come back to prison again.
Mm.
And
That's
I was
powerful.
thinking, how powerful is that?
Yes.
Them
Mhm.
Very.
committing to their daughters because they probably committed to other people before. Because some of them said they would like every 6 months they'd be right back in there.
Mhm.
They faced their daughters because they were saying facing their daughters and seeing their daughters' tears was just like
Mm.
it did something for them, and they were just saying, "I will never do this again." And I just thought
Mhm.
if y'all get a chance to watch it, oh my God, it was so powerful. But it just brought back to me creating spaces for each other. I think is so powerful that we could do, and maybe as Black people, all people, we need spaces to be able to talk about the things that we're going through and to be able to grow. I mean, that's just point blank.
That's right.
Yes.
Very true.
And I was
Yes.
saying for me, that has been that space for me in the last because I was telling the guys when we started this space, I had lost my job, right? And
Mm.
this became a thing for me of a space for me to get past that failure, that whatever, you know what I mean? That feeling of unworthiness, that feeling of whatever, to get to a place of feeling, hey, I'm worthy and da 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 da. You know what I mean? Of course, I came back full circle. I'm out of a job again, but I have a whole different perspective on it than I had then, right? So it's
Mhm.
almost like what I say, you come back to the same place, you think well, no, because I'm at another level. I'm at the same place, but it's like I feel like I've done the circle and I didn't come back. I'm like over here now.
Yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
Okay.
I would say that for me, this space has been wonderful, and I feel like it pushes me to grow more spiritually. You know what I mean? It pushes me
Mm-hmm.
to feel like when I get to those spots, what can I be doing now? What can I change? What are the things that we've been talking about? How can I get in? What meditation? What can I do? Spiritually. Whether I'm going to use some of my divinity tools to help me get an answer, push me in a different direction, but it helps get me to that next place of I don't feel like I'm lost or I don't know what to do because I've been doing these things. It's like what I'm gonna do next, what I'm gonna try next, what I'm And so this has just been a wonderful space, I would just say, for me.
Mm.
Yes.
I love that.
I second it. In one of our private chats, I shared with you all when Goddess April approached me about being one of the co-host participants in this podcast. I was nervous, but I also knew what I had put out there in the universe of what I wanted. And just as Goddess Akili, I kept being put in situations to affirm, but I kept removing myself. And so having this space and the Goddess-ity podcast, it helped me overcome my fear of being seen.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like, okay, there's that judgment. There's a part of me that sometimes I'm like, I don't care. But I was like, no, you really do, because you have a fear of being seen and putting yourself out there. Others see you, and others will put you out there and lift you up. But for you to do it for yourself, it's
Mhm.
like, mm-mm. And as Goddess and Juanita and I were talking, um, we got to talking about the feminine and the feminine energy and
Mhm.
how there is a shift in that and where it's going. And with that, I acknowledge that, okay, Linda, you have been hiding away. Well, I won't say hiding away. I will show up because I am someone that it's like, okay, work needs to be done. I will show up, but I show up as like, okay, I'll be over here and I'll be doing this. But someone will always say, okay, Linda, I need you to come over here and do this. And I'd be like, but why? Oh, because I saw what you can do. They had more confidence in my ability than I had myself. And I was just like, oh, okay. So I've stopped fighting it. But I did share this with my daughter recently because I was telling her about all of this stuff that was coming up for me while being in Costa Rica. And and what came up for me in this regards was, I lost my train of thought, but it was about um being pulled into spaces um that's what it was. So in my professional career is where I was wanting these levels of elevation, but as Black women, we know what we are up against in certain regards. So yes, I was my verbally, people would give me my accolades for the most part for my abilities, but they were not rewarding those accolades, my abilities and skills. And they would use them and utilize them and then have the audacity to tell me, well, this is what's expected of you. This person over here, we don't expect much of them. So, but when they did perform, it's like, oh, well, we're going to promote you. But Linda, this is just what's expected of you. And so, now in this space, I had given up on that and I was just like, just live life and enjoy life. But what I see is that in the area of nonprofit, I've been approached a few times and been in positions, declined positions, but now I find myself back again. It's like, Linda, the universe is telling you something. You may have had one idea that, it should look like this, but actually, the platform that you may be on or should be on or whatever is coming in a different avenue. And so I said, okay, I will be open and I will stop fighting it. That's all I said. I'm going to stop fighting it. And as a matter of fact, one of the organizations that I'm involved with, okay, come on, Swoop, which way?
Make up your man.
I know that I'm looking at myself on the screen, right, but my hands going the wrong way.
On the other side.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with the president of this nonprofit, and I told him, I said, I want to apologize because I have not been showing up how I should, and doing, taking on this role more seriously as I know I can. I said, but I'm ready. I'm ready now. And I'm just letting you know that, you're going to see something different, out of me. And he was like, I wasn't worried about it, Linda. I knew you had it. You needed space. You needed space. You were transitioning. Yes, you were transitioning from the corporate world. And you needed that space to do some things. He said, so I knew you were coming around, so I wasn't worried about it. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. She's like, I didn't know, but all right.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm fighting it the whole way. Nope, no.
That is too funny. I just gotta say something, y'all. I'm over here, and y'all, I don't even know if anybody paid attention to me. Probably not, and I kind of hope not.
I've been seeing you.
Me too.
But listen. When I tell you, okay, it started with Goddess-ity, then Goddess-Juanita, then the word space is not like it's this word that doesn't get used a lot. But when I tell you, I'm over here tickled because I'm like, source play too much. We over here having our own little conversation on the snap because
yeah.
So Keely said something about it at first, as she was talking about her being this, educator and, creating these spaces, and Goddess Juanita saying the need to have spaces like these and all of this. And it's so funny because earlier on, as we introduced ourselves, I went ahead and owned the title of sacred space holder because I came to understand that that's something that I naturally do. And so now what I'm working on, as I was saying, this is what I'm going to be working on as these gifts and all of this stuff is just really happening and coming together. And I've been putting it together and packaging it. And so when I first heard it, it was like, oh, confirmation. And then it was just more confirmation. So it just kept being said. So I was just cracking up and so trying not to crack up. Like, okay.
That's right. That's right.
So this whole thing, the way that it resonated initially, and then to keep hearing the word, it was just kind of like it was like, it was funny. But that's definitely something that I'm being called to do, is to intentionally create, and I would even say co-create sacred space with people who want to do exactly what you're saying, Goddess Juanita, is have a place that they can show up as themselves and talk through whatever it is that they need to talk through, right? It's so important to have that. And I say sacred because, we're sacred beings.
Yeah.
And I think when you acknowledge yourself that way, your own sacredness, your own sovereignty, and then that the person who you're co-creating this space for, providing this space for, it gives them permission, right, to show up in that way. And so I've gotten to this place where I understand that I'm meant to, at least for now, that's part of my mission. And I've been getting confirmation this whole conversation. I don't know. I'm sorry. I was listening. I promise you I was present, but I just could not help being like, okay, I hear you. So
it is confirmed.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm gonna miss our weekly discussions. That's for sure.
Yes. We have a lot of good things to talk about that, like I said, I don't even usually get to talk about till I get in here. So yeah, it's always front of mind.
Yeah, it's gonna be
so
fun.
true.
But anyway, it'll be exciting to see what all we have to talk about when we come back.
Yes.
we might have to do a 2-hour show instead of a 1-hour show.
It might be.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Now,
go ahead.
Nope. I was gonna say Goddess Juanita was gonna share some stuff with us about the planets, but I know she kind of already jumped in there and started talking about the paternal power of Saturn. So I didn't know if you were done sharing that bit of information.
One thing I want to talk about too is just, we're in this whole Saturn moving to Pisces, right? So we're in this whole change. And I feel like as I see all these things happening, especially with the divine feminine, I see, especially in this country, as we see, because you're thinking, man, how did we get to this space that we have a woman and a woman of color actually being at the top of a ticket, right? In this space and time. And what I was going to say is all of things had to line up so many years ago to be in this space at this time. It didn't just like that. Like people just think, oh my God, it happened, right? But it had to be lining up. And I know we talk about cycles all the time. And I've been getting really excited because I feel like the feminine is starting to come back around to people understanding the importance of the feminine. Because for so long, at least in my lifetime and hundreds of years, I know probably in the whole, 26,000 year cycle or whatever cycle we were in, the feminine was up there for a long time. I'm in a blimp of time. I might be in like you said, Goddess-ity last week, page is 1,000 pages. I'm on 999. And maybe page 1 through 998, the feminine was ruling. I don't know, right? But as we see these things changing, one of the things that I was saying is you see there's a change. Not saying what political party is better than the other, because I think all of us just, we're like, as they say, actors in a play, and there's things going on behind the scenes. But what you do have to say is when there is a woman sitting at the top of this ticket, there is definitely has to be a change of a mindset and a spiritual thing happening, because that just does not happen in the physical. There has to be a lot of spiritual undertones happening with all of a sudden this country even trying to recognize a woman as being someone in charge, right? I mean, that's like, how did that happen? How could that? I mean, because it's always like women are kind of looked at as, oh. But the other thing I noticed, I was telling Goddess Linda about, not only did they put a woman, but a woman of color. That is really crazy, because you never would have thought that a woman of color would be the first woman, right? I mean, that didn't seem like the order of things. So it almost seems like you're starting to lose not only this identification of feminine, masculine, but also the race part as well, because we've said, okay, now we'll put a black woman who is what I would think the black woman is probably looked at as the most the lowest one on the totem pole, right? I mean, in most respects. But I've also noticed, I don't know if you noticed, how that they presented her. When you see, she's always laughing, she's always like full of joy, she's always happy. And you have to know that's got to be like this, a contradiction to the whole angry black woman kind of thing, right? And so as you see this whole, to me, it's like a play playing itself out, and you're watching it. And like I said, it's still that whole Saturn thing with the slow motion. You see this thing slowly moving, and you're thinking, and all these pieces are just so intricately, I don't know, like it's like playing chess, and every little move is something very intricately going on. It's not something haphazard. But I just said, as we're moving into Saturn, which we know, I mean, Saturn is like 19. Well, so if you go back and look at time, it's like the 1964 when we're doing the civil rights stuff. That's when Saturn. I mean, all the times when Saturn was there, it was something major going on, and you're like, wow, something major is about to happen. And so I'm just saying, if I'm just looking at this divine feminine and saying, oh my God, does that mean women will start being looked at in a whole different light, which brings, something totally different that we haven't experienced in our lifetime here in this lifetime, is seeing a woman ruling and people thinking, hey, that's okay. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to say if she did get that position that everybody would go along with it. I wouldn't in their minds. But I think slowly it's saying that, hey, a woman can be president and that's okay. Then maybe people say more seeing women be the top at companies, women, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like everything kind of follows this thing. So I just said, just looking at the whole landscape of political, the world, the spirit, kind of figure out how all that works in with the spiritual and what. But I really think we're trying to get more of a balance of the masculine and the feminine, because you got to have a balance first. And, I think it's really, in the spiritual realm, it seems like there's really some things that are really playing themselves out. But it's like, it's kind of one of those things where if you don't pay attention, then you're not going to even think about it. Like, what's really going on? So I think it's really interesting.
I think that's interesting too. And when you pose that question, right, the first thing that came up for me is that, if, Kamala does come in here and do Kamala, right? Yeah. Will that then give women the opportunity to recognize who we are?
Who we are, right?
And so, in our conversations about having that audacity, or talking about the divine, or talking about Black divinity, I think so much of what has to happen is remembering
who we are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not so much about can we realize, you need to remember.
Right? Remember who we are.
That's right. Comedic spirituality says you can't do nothing without a woman.
No, that's right. That's right.
It won't happen.
The
Like
creator of
nothing is
life.
going to get accomplished.
Everything.
What
I
you getting
mean,
ready to say? God is
most
able.
people, most people. I mean, most people. You know, me. I was reading some book about woman being the second part of God. I think it's some Muslim man wrote it, but I thought it was really interesting because he talked about how the woman is so intricate in everything that has to happen, right? You know, even is if a man is going to be great in the household, it starts with the woman being great because she lays the foundation for everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, this is coming from a Muslim man. This is interesting. I
Yeah.
said, but okay, because I always thought that they saw themselves as some men, but it didn't seem like. I say, okay, so it doesn't seem like they think that because one he was saying something about he wanted his wife to cook and do all that stuff, but he was saying and she wasn't cooking the meals he wanted, but then he realized that it wasn't that she wasn't cooking and didn't want to provide the meals, but that he was only giving her enough money to provide this type of meal. And so he said he didn't understand that. And then he realized if he wanted to have better food, he needed to give her a bigger budget. I was like, okay, so see, yeah, he's like, okay, I was giving her allowance and she was doing the best she could. I was giving her. He said, but I didn't realize I was being tight with the money. I was messing with my own meat.
You are
Yep.
hilarious to me today. He said, here, I need a 6-course meal. Why isn't it complete? I have 76 questions right now. I am not going to ask, but no,
That is too funny.
not at all. Not at all.
Oh man.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to take it somewhere else, probably. Just talking about even with Christianity,
Ciao.
people don't understand, right? Because they take things literally. But even if you
Yeah.
do take things literally, the fact that, let's just say we take it literally, the fact that God found it necessary.
No, she did.
You about to get sifted. What you about to say, God is
Hit us
April?
with the God.
Yeah.
Come on with the GAWD spelling now.
No.
Ooh, you getting sifted. Getting stirred.
Woo.
I am
Okay,
being
now,
so
Reverend
No,
April,
okay.
come on now.
But I mean, the fact that God felt it necessary to bring Jesus to this earth via this woman and the way that he did, the fact that it was necessary for him to still have, right, this journey from, right, being this thought to then growing inside of this woman to being delivered and birthed into the world. I mean, God is God. That didn't have to happen. He could have just plopped them down like he did Adam, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
So, or shaped them from clay. What is it, sand? Whatever it is, child.
Wheel. That's right.
So I'm just saying, like, the significance of that. And then if you, of course, go into it more esoterically, what it represents, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look, all of these different religions are letting you know how significant the feminine is in creation and in life itself. But anyway, but I also just wanted to say what I was going to say, Goddess-ity, before you went on, before I passed it to you, was that I was just looking at this Goddess Talk Live, following your joy. And, the reason why I just decided to go with that, why I thought it was very fitting, is because that, first of all, can look so many ways. And I think we've talked about why it's so important, and how doing so, in the same way when we talk about like listening to your intuition, like you can't be steered wrong. Following what lights you up, what makes the most sense, what feels right in that moment, because it doesn't have to be I'm chasing my dream, or this is my passion and I'm going after this. it could really, in a moment of trying to figure something out or being in this space of in between or maybe even down or what have you, but choosing to lean into something that feels better to you in that moment
Yeah.
is going to carry you to the next best thing, right? And so as we are sharing here, sitting here today and talking about, why we came to this place and, what we're going to be working on, what's next, and things like that. Essentially, that's what we're each individually doing,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Um, and so, anyway, in case, because we never said the title really, talked about it, but it's there, I just thought I would throw that out there.
Yeah.
Why it's titled Following Your
Mhm.
Joy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on that before we wrap things up, or anything else in particular before we wrap things up.
I thought the title was very fitting when I saw it. I was like, that's
Yeah.
an excellent title. But,
Mhm.
April, Goddess April, I would expect for you to come up with something wonderful. I mean, that's just my
That's right.
expectation.
She has
Bless
no
you.
talent.
I thank you so much. I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I love
As
that.
a
We gotta be audacious to do it.
Yep.
Yep.
period. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you ladies feeling as we are coming to
Good.
the end of this episode and knowing that it will be the last time for a while anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not the end. We're just turning a page.
That's
Yes.
right.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's
Good
right.
way to
It's
look
not
at it.
goodbye. It's bye for now.
We just turning the
Yes.
page
Just
very
turning the page.
slowly.
It's just, yeah.
Very
As a good book, it starts,
slow.
everything just, melds together.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. The divine will do that. So I mean, I'm all for it. I think like Goddess Juanita have been in what I consider to be like a failure to launch space for quite some time. And so again, I'm thankful for being in a space where I've been able to pull off some of those layers and realize, what that's really about. So I can move.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think we all are in that place,
Yeah.
have been in that place whether we realize it or not. But
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think we're coming to understand that now, and that is so beautiful. And I am so excited for
Yes.
all of us,
Yes.
all of us.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I can't wait to find out like what you got, how things have progressed when we come back. Right? I'm so excited because I
That's
know
right.
it's gonna be amazing. I know it's
Me
gonna be
too.
amazing.
I
Yes.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
It
This
is.
is this is for Robin.
Okay. Well, we got enough content out there, as people continue to find us, they have a while, some stuff they can catch up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then hopefully by the time we pop back out, they'll be ready for us. So
Yeah.
That's right.
please check out all of our other videos if you haven't yet. Don't forget
Yes.
to like, share, comment, and subscribe because again, we will be back.
Yes.
We really appreciate
Yes.
everyone who
We do.
has
We do.
subscribed, has tuned in, has supported.
Yes.
You are very valuable and appreciated.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes, you
So
are.
I just want you to know that.
Thank
And so with that, will we bid them adieu?
you. Yes.
Yes. A big
All
ado.
right. Okay. All right. Ashe.
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 Peace.